breaking news after the U.S. warned all day of a full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, that it was imminent. Vladimir Putin has just addressed the Russian people.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin has launched a major military operation against Ukraine.
Of course, as war unfolds in Ukraine this morning, explosions and sirens heard in and around Kyiv overnight.
My name is Mr. Caravano.
Shannon Sobia.
James Becker.
I teach world history, 9th grade primarily.
I'm a history teacher at Pinelands, and I teach U.S. history and advanced placement European history.
Surveys of law, sociology, and world studies.
So to fully understand the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you have to go back to 1991 when Ukraine essentially pulls out of the Soviet Union, and it's essentially a massive loss to the Soviet Union, and this is going to be one of the critical moments which is going to bring down the Soviet Union. And at that point, Ukraine's going to be its own independent nation for roughly 30 years. They're going to face corruption charges. They're going to struggle to be their own nation. And then fast forward to 2014. 2014, which is really when this conflict that we're discussing takes place. So we actually have to go back. Yes, the war started 301 days ago, but we need to go back to 2014. So in 2014, what essentially happens is the people of Ukraine begin to rise up, and they begin to protest because their president had recently pulled out of an agreement which would have brought Ukraine closer to the European Union and a more Western style of democracy. The president pulls out because he is closely aligned with Putin and Russia, and he wants to continue to keep that relationship with Russia. So as he pulls out, the people rise up because I believe the majority of Ukrainians do want to be more like Western Europeans. And at this point, the protests become so intense, so violent, that the president of Ukraine has to flee. He is going to exit the country. He's going to actually head to Russia, where he is safe and secure. And the government of Ukraine is now going to become more of a democracy that we would recognize as Americans. And eventually, at that point in 2014, President Putin of Russia views that as a slight, as an offense, as a direct attack, and he believes that the influence of Western Europeans, as well as the United States and others, is becoming too close to his border. And at that point, he is going to annex the Crimea and officially start his invasion of Ukraine. And then fast forward to 2022, 301 days ago, and essentially what he is going to do is attack Ukraine on 3 fronts in a hope to take over the entire country.
Well, the connection between Russia and Ukraine is that during the period of the Soviet Union, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. So when the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union ended, parts of the Soviet Union began to break away into nations again. And this is, I think, where Russia has their justification, or they feel they have a justification to try to take back Ukraine from what it is. Plus, they have extreme amount of resources. So that also makes it very attractive to Russia and leaders like Putin to have that. So there's that history of the two countries together, having been part of the Soviet Union, and the aggressive country, the aggressor in this part, Russia, wanting to try to reclaim their empire.
Well, I mean, the origins, you know, just from just doing a little research on this, is it stems from World War I, World War II. The Ukraine, all right, you know, was always wanted to be an independent state from Russia. And you know, after World War I, it was sucked up by Russia. Even before World War I, it was part of Russia. But they've always wanted to become an independent state, and that was in 1922 that they started to really you know, throw elbows around and stuff like that. But then you know, after World War II, you know, they just became with that Iron Curtain and stuff like that. There was a tighter grip from Russia on the Ukraine. You know, this stems, you know, you could say this stems from the 1991 fall of the USSR, where Ukraine, up until that point, broke away from Russia and became, you know, overnight, it became the largest country in Europe. So that's where it stems from. You have Vladimir Putin. You know, he's the premier president of Russia, who actually wanted to, who backed the people in the Donetsk and the Luhansk area, those people who wanted to stay part of Russia, and they wanted to separate from the Ukraine. So some of this stems, you know, there's two sides to this story, for the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, and the Ukraine pushing back, and you know, the rest of the world taking a look at the this you know, invasion, you know, the military escalation that occurred, and what side, you know, people have to choose sides. So I mean, that's what it comes to at the end of the day.